Hey, Curtis.
Hey, Oz.
What are we watching this week?
This week we got a four-parter here, Oz.
Ooh.
We're watching Desperado
Okay.
meets Roadhouse,
Okay.
crossed with 30 Days of Night,
Okay.
and a little bit of RV. This week's movie is From Dusk Till Dawn.
just a little bit of RV.
A little bit of RV.
Oh, I forgot that movie. Is that Robin Williams?
It is Robin Williams. I forgot that movie existed as well, and then I'm trying to think of like the punchline movie. And it's like,
right.
there we go. 2006's RV.
RV. It's probably, yeah. I think this movie probably inspired RV. Like,
I think it
what
did.
What if we made From Dusk Till Dawn, but never got out of the Winnebago?
And From Dusk Till Dawn was inspired by Spaceballs.
Yeah, that it was.
There you go.
Oh, welcome back to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme and just basically riff on it and make fun of it and watch movies and have fun and laugh and enjoy ourselves. We are off to another month, new theme.
New month!
And what is our theme this month?
Well, last month's theme was Batmen, where we talked about various Batmen across the years. And so, with it being the month of October and flipping the script, we're going with Man-Bat Month. Mm-hmm. Vampire movies, in which the one stipulation is we must see bats. We must see the bat version of the vampire. So, Man-Bat Month.
Man-Bat. So, if you loved Bruce Wayne, get ready for Dracul. So yeah, we're covering 1996 Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez tag team movie here, From Dusk Till Dawn. I love this movie. Before we do, we'll jump into it. I want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers, Don S. and Melissa L.
Thank you.
Without your patronage, we wouldn't have this 15 seconds to fill.
So, Lord knows what we would do to fill that 15 seconds.
I don't know. But thanks a lot, guys, for your patronage. If you'd like to support the show, you find a link down below, and we would love to add your name to the list of people that we thank.
Toss a couple coins in our coffers.
That's right.
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
That's right. That's all you need. Just a coin.
A coin to your Witcher.
Just drop it. Just drop it in the slot, in the internet slot there. So, all right, your movie this week.
Yeah, it's my movie, which means you got the characters, Oz. And
I do.
What a cast of characters we have here.
It is a cast of characters for sure. Ragtag group here. I'm going to start with the good guys. We got two families basically, and unlike Hatfield and McCoy's, these two kind of team up and help each other out. So we've got the Fuller family. Jacob, Kate, and Scott, played by not Father Harvey Keitel.
Father Harvey, as we know him in this show.
Well, I guess technically he is a Father Harvey.
Yes,
Keitel in this movie. Harvey Keitel playing the patriarch of the group, a pastor who has lost his faith, which hopefully he refines it because it's going to come up necessary.
Oh, yeah.
And his two children, Kate and Scott, Juliette Lewis and Ernest Lou?
I think Lou, I want to say.
Lou?
I'm not 100% sure.
If you're listening, drop down in the comments.
Drop a comment below.
Phonetically. Give us a word that it rhymes with so we know how to pronounce it correctly. But yeah, they're the Fuller family, and they are headed down to Mexico just to do some sightseeing. Mm-hmm. And they intersect with another family that is prominent to the movie, the Geckos. Seth and Richard Gecko, played respectively by George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney, these guys are not nice guys.
No, they're not.
They are bank robbers and murderers, and they're on the lam.
No good nicks.
Nope. They are also headed down to Mexico because they are, trying to escape the law, and they want basically to hide out in the great country of Mexico.
They're going to hang out with Carlos.
But they need a ride.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really our five main characters. We do have a series of that guys.
Sure.
But yeah, we've got Cheech Marin playing about 15 different roles in this movie.
Doing his
he's
best Eddie Murphy impression.
Yeah, he's. I was gonna go Peter Sellers, but
there you go. Too. Yeah, because Peter Sellers was also 3 characters.
Yep. So we got Cheech Marin playing really nothing of prominence, but he does show up in 3 different times. He is the aforementioned Carlos. He's also a Border Patrol guard and the hype man for.
Yes, that's an apt description
for our alcoholic establishment that they are rendezvousing
for our roadhouse.
Yes, we have a couple, and another man that works behind the bar. They call him Razor something or other. Played by Danny Trejo, a very svelte and somewhat young looking Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
But Danny Trejo's behind the bar, and he only serves those with CDLs that are truck drivers. Some other people just around the bar. We've got Tom Savini with a very interesting gun. How does he pull the trigger on that gun?
I have some theories. There's some speculation.
Okay, you could get to those.
I'll get to that.
Yeah, we got Fred Williamson playing another man who all he wants to do is stack up his dice. And then we've got the fun parts. Oh, I do want to mention a couple more as we get going. But another, really about the only one worth mentioning is Salma Hayek as Santanico Pandemonium.
Yep.
The checkbox for Quentin Tarantino's fetish.
Yes. You could put it that way.
We have other characters that I know you and I are fans of that just pop up. Michael Parks has a small role as Michael Parks has a small role as the role that he plays in every Tarantino movie of just the cop, like
Earl
the state
McGraw,
trooper.
Texas Ranger, Earl McGraw.
John Saxon has a minor TV part as another police officer. Kelly Preston is the somewhat aroused at the news that she's sharing newswoman.
She was very excited to share that news.
Yeah, then 7 state troopers. I'm like, why is this getting to you? And then John Hawkes. I'm a big fan of John Hawkes.
Yeah, he's great
as one of those that guy character actors. But those last 4 are just kind of there. Really, it's those main 5 and then a bunch of other things that I'm going to let you get to.
Yep.
So that's it for the characters. It's pretty much everybody in the movie.
That pretty much is. That's just a whole lot of vampires. Spoiler alert!
I didn't want to drop the ball, but it's yours. So
again, as we've joked before, we could have named this podcast "Spoiler Alert" because that's basically what we do is just spoil movies.
We spoil 26-year-old movies for you.
So, as Oz mentioned, we have a couple of sort of character actor roles here at the beginning. We open up on a small convenience store, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, Texas. We got Texas Ranger Earl McGraw walking into Benny's liquor store, talking with the clerk. The clerk's character has a name. I didn't bother to take it down. So
it's all right. It doesn't really matter.
He's the clerk.
I think it's just John Hawkes.
It's just John Hawkes, yeah.
Full name.
Both characters are very bigoted and racist and ableist. Themes that's come up and will probably come up again later on towards the end of our show today.
Yeah.
However, McGraw mentions that there was a recent incident up in Abilene. 4 cops were killed and a bank teller was taken hostage. They chit-chat for a while and then he goes to use the commode.
Yeah.
The camera the commode. The camera pans over and this clerk has been playing along the whole time. Seth and Richie Gecko are there. As you mentioned before, Oz, played by George Clooney of ER fame at the time.
Yeah. Yep. And return to Horror High fame.
Yeah. and Roseanne fame.
And Roseanne fame.
So post ER, pre Batman and Robin, George Clooney.
Yeah.
Playing Seth and Richie Gecko. They have 2 young hostages with them. They've been hiding behind a display rack, guns pointed at the clerk the whole time. Richie's like, he tells his brother Seth, that clerk was giving signals to the cop. Mm-hmm. And the clerk is adamant, no, I wasn't doing it.
I really don't think he was.
I don't think he was either. So it gives you a little bit of insight that something's off with Richie, the Quentin Tarantino character.
Yeah.
So the cop comes back out, McGraw comes back out. He starts talking with the clerk again, and Richie just walks up and just shoots McGraw right in the head.
I've always been impressed, especially in this, how, I don't know if you noticed, I noticed Michael Parks would be a brilliant ventriloquist. He can hold complete conversations without moving his lips.
Just talking through his teeth the whole time.
Just talks to, and easy to understand.
Yeah, he's very articulate.
I just watched this, I'm like, he's not even moving his mouth, but this isn't dubbed either. This is magic.
Yeah.
No wonder. I'm going to start casting Michael Parks in all my home films.
There you go. It really is a great little performance, too, by Parks and John Hawkes as well. Great little performance.
I've always liked both these guys.
Yeah, they're great. So they get in a firefight with, Seth and Gecko do with the clerk. The clerk pulls a big gun out of the safe after they shoot him in the shoulder. And so this firefight ensues. These two little young hostages escape. There's a big liquor display right behind the clerk.
Right behind him.
Right behind him. So,
it's like it's set up like it's a convenience store by day, like tavern by night.
Basically, yeah. Pull up a stool to the take a penny, give a penny tray. So they shoot the liquor bottles out. Yeah, exactly. They light Seth lights a roll of toilet paper on fire, tosses it over, and just sets the clerk on fire.
Just engulfs him.
Like Toxie style. He's just, waving his arms, fire, just completely in flames.
Flight of the Valkyries is playing.
Yeah. So they walk outside, the clerk's done, McGraw's gone, and they walk outside, and, the place just bursts in flames as they walk out, just keeps exploding. And that is the opening. Then we get the opening crawl there. So that's
right.
What a great little opening sequence there.
It is. It's so awesome. Like, it just really sets the tone for what we think this movie's going to be.
Yeah. What do you? It's thinking back, Oz, to the first time you watched this movie. Did you know what the big turn halfway through was? Or
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
How did you experience this movie the first time?
It was DVD. Probably in college. I know it came out in '96, but I know I didn't see it in the theaters. And we didn't have and I didn't have a DVD player until I got to college, so it was probably on DVD. It was probably in Bernie's.
Probably Bernie. Whenever Bernie was going to come up.
And but I do remember just watching it because I at that point I was a big fan of Pulp Fiction. I remember seeing that in high school, and I remember like really being all on board with Tarantino and his writing style. So knowing he was involved, it was just the setup was exactly what I was looking for. Like, oh, this is fun. Like a lot of mayhem, and then just boom out of nowhere. It was like, and then it just I remember honestly though, and this is where I saw a lot divided in the reviews, is that's when I fell in love with this movie even more.
Yeah.
Because it already had me hook, line, and sinker, and then it turns into a horror film. Like, and as you know, that's right up my alley. So I was very pleased with, and I remember just loving this movie.
I remember.
But also not wanting to talk about it because I didn't want to spoil it.
I remember watching like the Siskel and Ebert on it, and they were like, "Yeah, the first half of the movie's great. It's this road trip thriller, and then it turned into a cheesy horror film." It's like, yeah, but that's what makes it cool. Like,
I know,
it's two movies mushed together, but they equally work together, and that's what it's so unique.
And the bridge between the two, it works. Like, by putting them in a setting that could, with an explanation behind it, it's something we hadn't seen before, and it just really, like, it just made sense. And even then, the title made that much more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie wasn't made for Gene and Roger.
Yeah. Well stated. So back to the plot here. So after the credits roll, Seth and Richie stop at a roadside motel, get a room. We get the classic, even though Rodriguez directed this, we get the classic Tarantino trunk point of view shot. Turns out that, yes, they were the people who killed these 4 cops up in Abilene, and the bank teller that Kelly Preston's news reporter said was taken hostage is indeed in the trunk of the car. So they bring her inside. Richie's he starts talking to the teller, and I noticed, maybe you don't notice this as well as, but when he starts talking to the teller and kind of looking at her, there's this sort of like low rumble in the soundtrack of the movie, which again,
I don't know if I noticed it.
It reinforces that something's off with Richie. Like you hear in the soundtrack in the movie, there's just this like low rumble. So again, turns out Richie's schizophrenic.
Yeah.
He sees things that aren't real. He hears things that aren't real. He is clinically schizophrenic. And he believes that, the hostages that they encounter across the movie are telling him things when in fact they're not.
Right. And it shows up full force when they cross paths with the Fullers.
Yeah.
Like there's no denying that he's got quite the imagination.
Yes. So Seth goes out to get food and supplies and whatnot, leaving Richie with with this middle-aged female bank teller.
We gotta give credit where credit is due. He went to Big Kahuna Burger.
True, yes, food. That's right. He went to Big Kahuna Burger because of
probably
Tarantino's
stopped to
involved.
get a pack of red apples.
Yeah, and then he shot Marvin in the face.
That's true. Again, poor Marvin.
Just keeps happening. Oh, Marvin.
That would have been kind of a fun gag if that actor shows up in every Tarantino movie and he's always named Marvin and he always gets popped in the face. Even with a musket, like Hateful Eight.
Phil Lamar is the actor that played Marvin. Yeah. He was on Mad TV for a while. He's also he's had like a big second wave to his career doing voiceover. He's one of those like 20 people in Hollywood that does like 80% of the voiceovers.
Oh yeah, with the guy from Reno 911, Carlos.
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah,
he does another one of those. He's just like, you wonder where those guys go, and then you realize that they're everywhere. You just see, you hear them, and see them,
but you don't know it's them.
Right.
So as Seth is out getting Big Kahuna Burger, he sees this big RV pull up, and he's got some ideas. So Seth gets back with the food, starts talking to Richie, and he's like, "Richie, where's the hostage?"
She's in there.
So he opens the door. Seth opens the door, looks in, and Richie assaulted her and killed her.
Yeah, very graphic.
Very graphic.
They did a nice just splice in one frame.
Yeah.
As Seth is just like taken aback by what he's seeing in this room.
Yeah.
Like it's both like shock and anger because it's almost like I should have known better not to leave Richie.
Yeah.
Here.
He's upset with himself, but he's more upset with Richie. Like you can't keep doing this.
Right.
So we cut to a nearby diner there with Jacob, Kate, and Scott talking about their RV trip to Mexico. We learn a little bit, as you mentioned before in the character breakdown, that Jacob recently lost his wife. The kids lost their mother due to a tragic car accident. And as a man of faith, Jacob is grappling with that. So we get to know them a little bit. They end up back at the hotel there, and there's a knock at their door, and it's Richie asking for ice. So turns out they barge in, they take them hostage. We're going to take your RV. You're coming with us down to Mexico. There's another little hallucination sequence between Richie and Kate. Richie thinks that Kate is asking her for some kind of sexual act, when in fact she is not. He is imagining this. And again, it adds to that sort of thriller layer and that sense of urgency because Richie is clearly the kind of the loose cannon character here, and he's the wild card, and even Seth has to manage him as well.
Right. Yeah. Seth even tells him after he takes out the bank teller that he's like, I don't do this, Richie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bank robber. Like this, like all of this carnage is not. It's just drawing unneeded attention to us. This is not what I do. But because Richie, like you said, is
he's ill. He is an ill person. Like he needs significant inpatient services and significant medication and treatment, and he's clearly not getting any of that.
That's actually that's the underlying theme of the movie. It's Seth's trying to get Richie to Mexico for help. At the Twister.
Yeah, at the Twister.
Got to stop first for best Mexican food in town.
So they all pile in the RV, Oz, with Jacob driving. Seth's up front talking to him. Richie has the two kids in the back just holding the gun on him. There's some little character things there as well, which, don't impact the plot overall, but you kind of get to know the characters a little bit more. And, you get the idea that Jacob, I think Jacob isn't afraid to die. But,
I don't think so either.
But he knows that to protect his kids, he has to protect himself.
Right.
Is kind of.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Seth Gecko is intelligent?
Yeah, I think Seth is a very bright person.
Because I want to, but I'm also torn with, as angry and knowledgeable as he is about Richie and his issues, how he keeps tasking him with things that put him in a position to let his illness take over.
I think, I understand that completely. I think Seth is a very bright person who wants to trust his brother and knows that he can't, this plan isn't going to work unless he extends some trust. But he's his brother, and he has to protect him, and he has to include him. But I think it's very begrudgingly.
Yeah, it's just tough when, and I'm going to use just kind of a derogatory, but it's like when a person is, for lack of a better word, a lost cause, but you have to rely on them. It's like, that's got to be this internal struggle.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that you're, a fugitive from the law that's trying to flee the country. And now it's like, oh my God, my brother has killed so many people unnecessarily, and now I need him on board. And we see this come up here momentarily in the RV.
Yeah, there's definitely friction in their relationship. But again, ultimately his brother was the one who busted him out. So he kind of owes his brother, let alone the fact that he is his brother. He needs him for this to work. But he has to rely on someone who he knows is unreliable. And that's a tough spot to be in. Not that we want to extend too much empathy to Seth, but
no. Right. Oh, poor Seth.
Poor Seth.
He drew such a tough card.
So they pull up to the border, and Cheech Marin, in the first of his 3 roles, comes up. They try talking around it. Jacob kind of stumbles over some things. He says, they put oh God, what's the son's name? I'm blanking right now. Scott. Thank you. They put Scott up front. Seth and Gecko take Kate into the bathroom. And Jacob kind of stumbles over his words a little bit. Cheech Marin's character comes on board the RV, looking around. Seth says something to Richie that kind of implies that he's crazy. And Richie takes offense to that. In this tiny bathroom, he's arguing, he's raising his voice, and you can see Seth is like, he's trying to keep his cool, and eventually he just punches him in the face and knocks him out.
Right. To which Kate thanks him for it.
Yeah. So there's this little bond already kind of forming between, these families in a way.
Yeah.
They end up talking their way out of it, and they make it across the border. And Seth tells the Fuller family, you guys are in my cool book now. We got to make it through this night. We make it through the night. You keep your lives. We all go our separate ways. And they end up at the rendezvous point that they're going to meet Carlos, their contact with. Ultimately, when Richie broke out Seth, they stole a bunch of money as well from this bank. And so they got to give 30% of it to Carlos to stay in El Rey down there in Mexico.
Which so happens to be the name of Robert Rodriguez's TV station, too. the El Rey Network.
Yeah, coincidence? Whatever.
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have that anymore, but man, I don't know if Comcast still carries it, but when they did, the lineup sometimes was really cool.
I would imagine.
It could be like the middle of April, and it's like, oh, there's a Nightmare on Elm Street marathon on.
Yeah, that's cool. So they make it, and Seth tells Jacob, we're going to this place called the Twister. Because this is a PG show, and because Oz and I both work in professional education, we're talking around some things in this very graphic movie, both with language and imagery.
Yes. Yeah, let's put it this way. If you've seen the sign, you know that this bar is not reminiscent of like tornadoes and hurricanes.
Yes, it has to do with
it's not a Bill Pullman themed bar.
Yeah, it's not, yeah. Helen Hunt's not there.
Right.
There are no cows flying through the air.
No, right. Big fan of Twister, this bar.
Yeah, they love, they spin and, left foot yellow. So they make it to the something Twister. Yeah. And another Cheech Marin character is there. You I think you aptly named him the hype man. So
he's the hype man.
He's hyping up the type of product that one can get at the Twister.
You have the full quote you'd like to share, right?
Yeah, I have it right here in front of me at the tip of my tongue.
Are you cutting out?
Yeah. Sorry, Dottie, I can't hear you. So
I love Pee-wee. I love Pee-wee.
Yep, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Oh, what a great movie. So they make it inside after they have to beat up the Cheech Marin hype man character.
I don't know if they had to.
Well, they did. He was reluctant to let them in.
I think Seth did what he needed to do. I don't know if Richie necessarily needed to.
Yeah. Richie didn't have to come back and kick him in the face several times.
While he was
several
down.
times. So they walk inside, and it is definitely a roadhouse, as one would imagine a roadhouse in the middle of nowhere to be. There are scantily clad women everywhere. There are
bikers, there are truckers,
people just openly carrying weapons and firearms. There's a rowdy band playing. It's
Danny Trejo standing next to some sort of meat that's made out of pig head.
Yeah,
there's this giant hog's head in like this hot dog warmer. Best carnitas in town.
Yeah.
I seriously doubt that. I don't know if he said carnitas, but whatever it was,
yeah.
It was.
So they walk up to the bar where Danny Trejo's at, and he says, "You're not welcome here. This is for bikers and truckers." And to which Jacob walks up, and he completely saves the Gecko Brothers here.
Oh yeah,
he says
again
that recreational vehicle out there, you have to have a commercial driver's license, a CDL to drive it. I am a trucker, and these are my friends. I thought that was a very powerful little moment.
Oh yeah, huge. And I think it showed. Seth a lot of like, you're not going to be able to just muscle and bad attitude your way through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that you're not going to get around this.
Yeah.
And then, so another instance where, that the Geckos really need the Fuller family to make this plan work.
Well, and I think Seth recognizes that Jacob is doing all this to protect his kids. Everything that Jacob is doing is to protect his kids, and I think Seth admires that in some ways.
I can see that.
Because he has to protect his brother, and and I think he admires what Jacob is doing and the risks that Jacob is willing to take to protect his kids from this environment that Seth has now put them all in, and Seth respects that.
Yeah.
So we get introduced to. There's great music playing, by the way, Az.
Oh yeah. The soundtrack to this is awesome.
Yeah,
as is the soundtrack to really any Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, flick that they really put a lot of effort into. Tarantino especially of almost finding like forgotten tracks or B tracks that really set the tone. I've always enjoyed a Tarantino soundtrack. I won't say every song, but every song fits the scene it's in as it's supposed to.
Yeah. Some of the songs stand alone. I wouldn't say are great songs, but they always they fit the moment, they fit the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great music's playing. We get introduced to some of the other characters that you mentioned earlier, as Tom Savini's character. We'll call him the machine. The machine.
The make love machine.
The make love machine. And as well as his interesting weapons, he uses a whip as well as a gun that is strapped to his groin.
Yeah, I still don't know how he fires it.
I think I was reading the trivia that supposedly it's like there's like a pressure pad or something that he squeezes, and that's what fires it.
It also doesn't seem to work, as it's a single barrel revolver with two drums of bullets. I feel it's gonna jam a lot.
There's other things we could take that a step further, but we'll just leave that one there.
Oh yeah.
We also get introduced to Fred Williamson, Shaft's character of Frost in this movie, and a self-described Vietnam veteran and hero.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and really he seems to be the most like, I'm just here to mellow out. Like he just wants to, like I said, like stack his like mahjong tiles.
Yeah, and gets annoyed when other people knock them over. Which is...
yeah, when he sits at a table with a nude table dancer, and then her dancing knocks his tiles over, and he just kind of stares at her like, could you not? Like, you might be the problem here, Frost. I don't know if you're seated in the right area.
Yeah. We get another little moment here. They're back at the table. Seth is insisting that everybody drinks with him, and Jacob kind of begrudgingly does. And Jacob and Seth take a shot together to respect each other's families, which again I think kind of shows this very, very begrudging. I don't know if bond is the right word, but maybe understanding that they have of what Seth and Jacob specifically are trying to do to protect their family. And then Oz, the mistress of the macabre, the epitome of evil, the most sinister woman to dance on the face of the earth.
Are those your words or Danny Trejo's?
Those are Danny Trejo's words. I've been scripting this all week, Oz.
Right.
He introduces Centenico Pandemonium, takes the stage, Salma Hayek.
Oh.
With a, 8-foot yellow and white python draped around her.
Not even at first. Like, she comes out in just her basically bikini.
Yeah.
With nothing on, kind of, and a cape. She's got like a cape on. And she whips it over the front of each side. And then when she pulls it off both shoulders, voila, there's this giant constrictor snake there.
I was reading in the trivia for this that I guess she was terrified of snakes.
Yeah, I read that too.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this. I might be citing the wrong person here, but the production team, like Rodriguez, told her, we're thinking about hiring Madonna for this.
Yeah. That's true. I did see that as well.
And that focused her because I'm not going to lose this part to Madonna. And so she went to like therapists and helped work past this fear and, used behavioral therapy and things like that. And she was able to pull the scene off.
And she's an actress, so she fooled me.
Yeah.
I would have not have watched this and thought she was afraid of snakes.
I think a lot of this sequence reminded me of the Wayne's World part where Cassandra's, they're shooting the music video.
Yeah. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2.
Rob Lowe walks up to her. Is that the snake or you?
Oh, Wayne's World. Oh.
The whole place is captivated. This rowdy environment is now just in like awed silence.
You could argue really the snake was completely unnecessary because if you're watching this scene and paying attention to the snake, I wasn't.
She is drawn to Richie, Oz. Something I failed to mention earlier is during the firefight way back in the beginning with the liquor store, he took a bullet through one of his hands.
Yes, he did.
So he's been tending that the entire time. He literally wrapped his wound in duct tape.
I was going to say he duct taped it shut.
Yep. So Centenico is drawn to Richie. They have a little moment together. Cheech Marin,
I have a feeling Tarantino scripted this exactly as it played out.
Yeah. So Cheech Marin's hype man character walks in with Danny Trejo and another giant bouncer because of what they did to this hype man character earlier. Yeah. And this fight breaks out. They end up killing all three of them. The Cheech Marin character, Danny Trejo's character, and this other like giant bouncer. And then during this fight, Trejo shoves a knife through Richie's already wounded hand. To which
Richie rips it out and stabs him back in the chest with it.
Centenico takes notice of all of the blood here, Oz. And
is there a major artery in your hand? He is like, you would think already with a hole in his hand.
Literally a hole in his hand.
That, he's still in really good shape for having a hole in his hand. He hadn't bled out.
Yeah.
But he now gets stabbed in that hole. The hole that's already there. And now it's just gushing blood.
If he was luckier, it would have been like a screwdriver or something. It would have went straight through the wound and not done any more damage.
Yeah, that's right. Now he's just pinned. Now he's just pinned to the table,
or like an ice pick or something. And Oz, this is where From Dusk Till Dawn takes the giant right turn. Somebody grabs the wheel going 90 miles an hour down the expressway and turns that wheel as hard as you can to the right. This movie goes from being this dramatic thriller to an all-out vampire horror movie. Santanico sees the hand wound and transforms into...
she's Salma Hayek. She tips her head back to where we can't see it. Camera shooting from like Richie's angle.
Yeah.
Tips her head back, and when it comes forward, it's... Yeah.
She's vamped out, and all of the other dancers are vamped out. All of the other workers there. So basically everyone who works there.
Trejo, Marin, and then the gorilla guy all sit back up, and they're all vamped out.
Everyone's vampires, and they just tear into these truckers and bikers. There's literally heads rolling across the floor.
Right. There's a human body serving as a guitar now.
Yes, yeah. It's like a torso and leg guitar.
Right. Like that materialized quickly.
Yeah, it did.
Because they never stopped the music.
Yeah.
It's like in the middle of a show where someone brings you out a new hammer.
Yeah. Seth runs out of bullets, so he can't shoot Santanico, who's jumped onto Richie and is just biting him, and Richie dies. He dies right there, Oz. They take care of the other this first wave of vampires. Seth manages to shoot out a chandelier, which falls on Santanico, impaling her. But Richie's dead.
Yeah.
Seth couldn't protect his brother.
And it really bothers him. Obviously. Not just bothers him because his brother's dead, but bothers him because, like, how he lost him.
Yeah. So,
which is kind of nuts to think that, like, you just got ambushed by a bar full of vampires, and you really thought you were going to protect everybody here? Like, good for you.
We get some fun vampire sequences there. Fred Williamson's Frost character, that big bouncer charges at him, and he sidesteps him and rips his heart out, which is still beating in his hand, of course. And then he takes a sharpened number 2 pencil, which apparently has wood in it, and then just puts the pencil into the heart. And the guy falls over.
Drops him, yeah.
There's an amazing sequence between the 4 humans and 4 vampires where they're kind of it's like an old Western kind of shootout kind of where they're just kind of walking at each other from opposite sides of the room. Oh, it's great. Seth checks on Richie's corpse while the others are barricading the door, and Richie reanimates. He comes back, Oz. And
he looks good. He looks bigger. Like,
yeah, he does. I don't know if it's editing or if this was something that they intentionally did, but he has 2 different vampire looks throughout the editing process. One in which he still looks like Quentin Tarantino and just kind of has like contacts in and fangs, and the other one he looks almost Frankensteinish. He has this giant forehead.
Yeah, it's almost like mid-transformation in a way. Like, he did. He was very, like, almost like in Teen Wolf, where, like, Michael J. Fox first finds his fangs and his ears, and he's, like, still Michael J. Fox, mostly, but a little bit of werewolf, but then the other one, he just goes straight vamp out.
So Seth has to kill Richie.
It was hard.
Yeah. Not something that Seth was wanting to do, but he had the wherewithal to realize that, like, we can't let this vampire keep running around here, and so he kills his brother. And you get the idea. There's a little bit of a release for Seth as well, just with everything he had to put up with Richie. They then hear flapping sounds, and Oz, this is where this movie qualified for our.
That's just what I was going to say.
For our man Batman.
This is where it checks the box.
Yep. So they're barricading the building because there's bats everywhere outside, and where there's vampires, Oz, there's going to be bats.
This month.
Yeah, this month at least. Yeah. The other victims start reanimating again, so there's the second wave that they have to fight off. love-making machine and Frost take out several characters.
He's such a sweet man.
He
He's
is.
real tender.
He is.
He's real tender, that one.
Very romantic.
Tender Tom Savini.
If you can't tell, folks, the character's name is not Lovemaking Machine. We're using a pseudonym there.
Yeah.
It
sounds a lot like the number between 5 and 7.
Yeah. Or something that the Scarlet Witch would attack you with. It rhymes with that word also, yeah.
Yeah. Or a Boston or Chicago American League team.
There you go. It's not the worst word that it could be, but still one
it's not.
that we wanted to avoid, just given the implications here. So they take out this second wave. Lovemaking Machine gets a little bite on the arm. I know we're never not going to chuckle putting it that way.
Because we're 42-year-old juveniles.
Yeah, because we're basically 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
When it all comes down to it.
That's why we love movies like this.
Yeah, exactly. Vampires! Salma Hayek!
Yay! Torso guitars.
Torso guitar. Cheech Marin. All 12-year-olds loves Cheech Marin, by the way.
Every 12-year-old's favorite actor, Cheech Marin.
Yeah, it's his
Can't wait till my daughter turns 12 so I can introduce her to all the Cheech and Chong movies.
Yeah. She'll fall right into Cheech Marin's target demo. There's a fun little sequence where they're kind of between these waves of vampires, where Seth kind of is talking to the survivors, and he says, I don't want to hear anything about, I don't believe in vampires, but I believe in my own 2 eyes. And what I saw, they're vampires. Now, do we all agree that we're dealing with vampires? And then they brainstorm, like, what do we know about vampires? And how do we attack them? And so...
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I like it, like when movies kind of bring the lore in and have discussions about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not so much like, where you've got that one single character that knows everything about the past. But it's like where they're brainstorming, like vampires are larger than this movie. Mm-hmm. So what do we know about vampires?
Yeah.
I like it when they're not like introducing a monster in a movie, like Dracula. There was no reference to vampires in Dracula because Dracula was the vampire. Nobody knew, but I love it when movie like Monster Squad's another one where they're sitting around like, what do we know about werewolves?
Yeah.
What do we know about mummies? And I just think it's just a lot of fun. It really it makes it. I guess it grounds it a little bit more in reality because it's like obviously there aren't vampires and ghosts and werewolves, but we still have a lore about them.
Yeah.
So when it trickles into the cinema, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that sequence. Lovemaking Machine starts to turn, and he ends up biting Fred Williams. I'm just going to call him Shaft from here this point forward. He bites Shaft on the neck. And then
watch your mouth.
What you talking about? I'm just talking about Lovemaking Machine.
That's where these two characters get along.
Yeah, they get along very well. Jacob gets bit on the arm as well, and Shaft throws, I think Tom Savini through the door, letting all these bats in as he then transforms into a big vampire as well. He's big, like hulked out,
almost, hulked out and like just giant mouthful of fangs. He's almost like a shark mouth.
Yeah. I was watching this with Patreon subscriber Melissa L, and she described his look as a big dog. Almost like a pug with like all like the jowls hanging off.
Oh yeah, a pug. That's a good reference.
So thank you to Patreon subscriber Melissa L for helping us describe that scene.
Thank you.
So Jacob hides behind the bar as he's tending to this bite wound he has, while Scott and Kate and Seth retreat to this bunker there. That's basically they barricade the door and they're going through stuff, and it turns out that this place has been around for a while, Oz, and this is where when they take out these truckers, this is where they bring all the goods that they unload from the trucks.
The goods that they want to keep. I really wouldn't think that like every truck trailer that's ever crossed paths at the Twister they've emptied out and put in this room, or else you'd figure there'd be like expired boxes of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and
like there's like Velveeta cheese,
dog food, but no, it just seems to be the only things that are necessary for the scene.
A box of silver crosses.
Exactly.
What are you doing? We don't need these here.
Pallet upon pallet of A Dummy's Guide to Defeating Vampires.
A big drum of holy water. Get it together, Trejo. So they, the three in the bunker fashion weapons out of these goods that are there. Let's see. Seth makes this like pneumatic drill with like a big wood stake on the end of it.
It's almost like a jackhammer, but with, like you said, a giant stake on the end.
Yeah. Jacob, in the meantime, behind the bar, he finds a baseball bat and a shotgun, and he's able to hold it up as a cross, and so he's able to ward off.
Yeah, and he's refound his faith at this point.
Yeah.
Like, there's been part of the conversation earlier was, you know, do you believe in God now? Because we need you to do this.
Yeah, like you're our best. You're our best weapon.
Yeah, you're a man of the cloth, and if you don't believe in God, then there's no way we're going to defeat these things.
So he's able to make his way back to the room and joins the other three survivors, and he's like, I'll help you as long as I can, but eventually I'm going to turn. Kate and Scott, You're going to have to put me down. So not exactly something that, you know, you want to have to tell your children, let alone for the kids to hear. But, like, I'll help you as long as we can, but that means we got to act now before I turn, before you got to deal with me. So they're filling up super soakers with holy water, condoms with holy water. Kate has this like crossbow that has 7 arrows on it, but seems to fire a multitude more.
Right. Yeah. It's like Legolas.
Yeah, basically, there's somebody making arrows just off camera. So they make their last stand, Oz. They come barging out. Seth runs out, just goes, kill them all! And they start taking out vampires left and right.
Yeah. These vampires that transform from bats aren't as fun to look at.
Yeah.
They almost feel like they're like, take these flesh-colored pajamas and put them on. Like, some of the areas just seemed really baggy on some of them, but whatever. I mean, if you're going to start nitpicking this movie now, then then you're just a curmudgeon. So just get over it and enjoy the rest of it.
And I was also reading that to save on budget, they only made, I think, 6 like vampire costumes, like during the sequence, and they just kept rearranging them and just outfitting them in slightly different ways to make them look different.
They did something like that. Did you ever see The Descent?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that movie.
That movie gives every appearance that they filmed it in a cave. That entire movie was filmed on a soundstage. And I had read in the trivia somewhere that they had only made like a handful of like big foam rocks, and they just kept rearranging them into different tunnels to film everything in the movie.
Sure.
So it's like they just keep reusing these like 6 to 10 rock, like big foam rock formations, and just repositioning them to make it look like a different cave shaft, and filmed the whole movie that way. It's like, that's just genius.
Yeah. Yeah. Save your money, use it elsewhere in the movie. There's a couple fun little sequences during this big sort of climactic fight scene. Seth is fighting love-making machine, rips his head off with a whip. He then regrows a head and turns into a big like rat dog.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But fun.
Jacob is using the shotgun against the vampires, and he shoves it through Shaft, and then uses Shaft's body to cock the gun.
just kind of real jerks back and forth.
Yeah.
And his eyes just get big, and,
like, and then eventually Jacob turns and he bites Scott. Scott then basically gets devoured by like a half a dozen vampires. Kate has to mercy kill Scott, which
as he's as like this part it is just comical because it's like, it's loud in this bar. Yeah. Like there's all this fighting going on, but Scott's like whispering to her,
"Kill me, Kate!
Kill me, Kate!
Kill me, Kate!"
She's on the other side of the room, and
what?
Exactly. That's what I was waiting for. What?
Speak
Scott,
up!
No! Kill me, Kate!
Enunciate!
Right. So she does, and he magically just blows up.
Well, I think the implication is because he has these condoms full of
That's
holy water. So think of the arrow hit them and just took out everyone by him. So it's just Kate and Seth that are left, and they're back to back, and there's some bullet holes in the walls there, Oz, and the sun's coming up, and the water, or the sun's coming through and is kind of stinging the vampires, and so they start shooting more holes. And the sun's coming through, and they're kind of in the middle of the floor, and they hear Carlos outside, like, "Hey, Seth, you in there?"
played by Cheech Marin.
Cheech Marin, again, his third role. And so they bust in the door. The light hits the disco ball, which then takes care of all the other vampires.
Boom, boom! It's like popcorn in there.
Yeah.
Like they just explode.
So they end up back outside in kind of this little like epilogue-ish moment here after the big fight's done, and it's I love this little sequence, this little back and forth. Carlos is like, "Well, were they psychos?" And Seth's like, "Do psychos explode in the sun?" No, they were vampires.
I love it when he's like, why on earth did you pick this? Well, this place is as good as any other. Yeah. Like, you've obviously never been there, Carlos.
Yeah. So Seth negotiates a better rate with Carlos because, his brother's dead. Gives a bunch of money to Kate. She takes off in the RV. And in the closing shot, the camera kind of pans back. And it turns out that
cool closing shot.
Yeah, the twister is set on the lip of this big kind of crevasse.
Kind of a canyon kind of
thing. And behind it are these ancient ruins. So you get the idea that they turn this ancient place into a facade that looks like this bar, but it really is this ancient place where these vampires have probably lived for centuries.
Yeah. Which made me think, and granted there's a series of sequels that I haven't seen, but it's like there's no way that all the there's got to be more vamps.
Yeah.
And deep in these catacombs, because there's no way, granted there were a healthy amount of vampires in the bar, but not enough vampires to necessitate the size of the fortress they were at the peak of.
Yeah, it's huge building that just goes down,
and it's surrounded by truck trailers.
Yeah, it's just filled with them. Well, and that's 1996's Robert Rodriguez directed From Dusk Till Dawn. At this point in the show, folks... Sorry, were you going to say something else?
Oh, it's just a great start to Man Bat Month.
Yes, what a great start there. High energy, frantic start. At this point in the show, folks, Oz and I give our own unique rating to the flick we've been talking about. Oz, how would you rate From Dusk Till Dawn?
I'm going to give this 9 recreational vehicles.
Okay. Not 7.
This case, 9 RVs.
9 RVs. 9 recreational vehicles.
How about you?
I'm going to give this 3 Cheech Marins.
Ooh. Well, magically, it's exactly as many as we needed. If there's only a way we could have gotten Seth Gecko to punch the border guard in the face, then there would have been 3 instances where Cheech Marin gets punched in the face by George Clooney.
Yeah. never thought of that, but yeah, good point. All right, next up, folks, we have Outside Insights, where Oz and I share some unprofessional review we found on the interwebs with you, and we poke fun at whoever said Outside Insight. Oz, what do you got this week?
This is a nice short one. I found it on Letterboxd by Cal Sandwich Emoji, I think. It's a 4.5 star.
Is it spelled out Sandwich Emoji, or is it just an emoji?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all one word. Cal Sandwich Emoji. No, it's a 4.5 star review, so in line with how I feel. But it's pretty quick. If you look like Quentin Tarantino and your brother looks like George Clooney, you probably lost the genetic lottery. 4.5 stars. So, and he makes a good point because movies, obviously a movie like Twins, where Schwarzenegger and DeVito were supposed to be comedically different. Like, when they're just, sometimes Hollywood at times just doesn't understand that siblings usually still have some sort of resemblance to one another.
Yeah.
And so when you take 2 actors that, especially of the same gender, that visually are not believable as siblings and then call them siblings, sometimes it's like, you guys have different dads. They wouldn't have different dads. They'd have the same dad.
Brothers, but not in the genetic sense.
Yeah. So, but no, I just thought that was funny. Like, poor Tarantino.
My outside insight comes from the Internet Movie Database, Oz. This is from Stevel3.
Stevel,
I know. And this is a 10 out of 10.
I also gave a pod. I'm curious what Stevel has to say.
Stevel. Critics of From Dusk Till Dawn often dismiss it as grade Z slasher tripe. However, the film is really two separate but equal genres. That's an interesting metaphor to use there. Hard-boiled crime drama and B-horror comedy, scotch taped together. Definitely not everyone's cup of cinematic Joe.
Isn't that what they used to? They call President Biden by that sometimes.
Yeah,
Cinematic Joe.
Cinematic Joe. Yeah, Cinematic Joe. Here's the line that caught my attention for this one. T-Man's script is crammed full of his usual over-the-top dialogue. T-Man.
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 I have the power.
T-Man. So yes, that is my outside insight. Thank you, Stevel3.
Stevel3.
T-Man script.
T-Man. Popped his collar before he typed T-Man.
Finger guns.
T-Man.
All right, folks, it is the time you've been waiting for, our signature segment, the 3-2-1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the film we've been talking about. In this case, 1996's From Dusk Till Dawn. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
My 3 goods. I'm going to kick off with, I really like Harvey Keitel being written a role that's a little bit more straight-laced. I feel like he's built a filmography of being like Bad Lieutenant or The Wolf in Pulp Fiction, or just this like hard-nosed, take-no-nonsense kind of guy. And while he does still have that in his character, but it's rare to see him as a buttoned up pastor, with a floppy vacation hat on, and so I liked Harvey Keitel's performance. Not just the performance, but I liked the role for him. It was out of his ordinary, and he nailed it. 2, Selma and the Snake. I'm just leaving it at that. That whole scene.
Please go on. Be more descriptive.
Yeah, that scene was a lot of fun. I was 16, 17, when this movie come out. So it was right in my wheelhouse, I should say.
Yep.
And then I really was a fan of like the very like slapsticky fight scene between, the vampires and everyone else. Like the human torso guitar.
Yeah.
Like Shaft like flipping over a table and impaling 4 different, vampires on each of the table legs. When Trejo gets stabbed and melts and his eyes basically like billiard balls and roll into the corner pockets. Just dumb stuff like that. Like this movie is horror because of its graphic content, not because it's scary. This is not a scary by any means. And so I really enjoyed those 3 goods. How about you? What are your 3 goods?
My 3 goods, I'm going to start with the opening scene in the liquor store. I thought was great. I thought it was tense in the right ways. I thought the acting was amazing, especially Parks and John Hawkes. I thought it really set the tone for the movie. You got a sense of the characters. It tipped you off that something's off with Richie. And yeah, it's these guys are on the run from the law, and they end up stumbling through this liquor store in the middle of nowhere and add to the victim count. So I thought that scene was great. My second good would be Quentin Tarantino's writing. I thought it was well written. As always, you get great character moments and interactions, development there. And so yeah, Quentin Tarantino's writing, and yes, that is going to lead into something else.
Yeah. I think I admire Diablo Cody as a writer, but I feel like she and Tarantino was cut of a cloth, and I feel like Diablo Cody is cut from the remnants of that cloth.
Okay.
Like she's still, when she does her writing, I think movies like Juno, Jennifer's Body was much better in the scripted department, but like Tarantino writes his characters to speak a certain way, and we believe that they speak that way. And I feel like Diablo Cody, she writes her characters to speak a certain way, but it's just not quite as believable. It's a little bit more over the top. I think at Juno, for example, where we got, Michael Cera and, Elliot Page, and how like their dialogue, it's like, but you guys are like high school kids. Like I'm surrounded by high school kids, and 0% of them speak with the references that you speak. And so, but no, I agree with you 100%. Like, sometimes, like, even little things like Tarantino, where Michael Park's character, I'm going to hit the commode. Like,
yeah,
it's, at times, if you overthink, you're like, sometimes it feels like it's too much, but it's delivered by a character that makes it palpable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes a long way, is he writes with his actors in mind.
Knowing that they could deliver some of these lines that may not work with, delivered by other actors.
Exactly. Thanks for letting me interject there.
Yeah, of course. And my last good, I got a couple I'm picking from here. I'm going to go with just George Clooney. I thought George Clooney was great in this movie.
Oh, yeah, he was great.
I thought his was the best performance. I mean, Keitel's was great. There were some other great performances as well, but
this is right up there. This is one of my favorite Clooney performances, probably right behind One Fine Day. No.
That was fun, Ren. Okay, cool.
Right.
To each their own.
I'm kidding. I've never seen that movie.
So yeah, Clooney's my last good. Oz, what are your two bads?
Okay, the whole world knows that Tarantino has a foot fetish. Like, and that's my first bad. It's just like, come on, man. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's one thing for, it's abusive.
Yeah.
It's an abuse of power, when Hollywood entities that have like influence. Like, he writes the script that is being made, and then he gets to star in the movie he wrote. So it's like he gets to control the narrative here. If he may not have cast Salma Hayek, but whoever was going to be cast was going to be sensual, and she was going to put her foot in his mouth, therefore satisfying his personal fetish in a professional atmosphere. And she's contractually obligated to do it because it's part of the role. It's like that much more disturbing than, like, almost like what Adam Sandler does. Adam Sandler writes and, he produces the movies that he stars in, but it's like he always has a hot wife or a hot girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they're always in Hawaii or wherever, and they're always with his friends. So it's like just this influence over the production. But at the core of it, it's like, oh, there's Adam Sandler making out with Jennifer Aniston again. Oh, there's Adam Sandler with Kate Beckinsale. Oh, and it's like, it just, I don't know. After a while, like every once in a while, fine. Because, I mean, that's Hollywood. You got beautiful people. Yeah. But when it's movie after movie after movie of satisfying your personal itch. Yeah. And it's disturbing. And so Tarantino's foot fetish, this is probably like the worst violator that he's been in creative control of. And again, with his buddy Robert Rodriguez directing it, he's not going to tell him no. But we see feet in, Grindhouse, Death Proof. There's feet there. We get several close-ups of Uma Thurman's feet and Kill Bill, and it's just like, it's just gross. Like,
it is gross. It's very gross.
Yeah. So that's my first bad. My second one, and this isn't really a knock, but it's more for budget reasons. But the CGI got real rough.
Some was great, some wasn't.
Yeah. Some of that was really rough. I know that this is still fairly early for K and B effects.
Physical effects were great.
Yeah. And so, but the physical effects were wonderful. But some of those CGI, it's all tongue in cheek. So you just take it, whatever. But it wasn't enough to detract from it. But it was enough to like that may have been one of the weaker links of this film. Is the CGI effects. Again, budgetary reasons I understand. They're not working with Jurassic Park money here. Yeah. But this is post Jurassic Park. This is pre-Matrix. So the special effects could have, digital effects could have been a little cleaner, but whatever. How about you? What are your bads?
My bads, one of my goods was Tarantino's writing, so one of my bads is going to be I'm actually going to combine a couple I have here. His acting /dialogue. He's a terrible actor, but yet he still ends up in most of the movies that he's either directing or writing. And he's bad. He's bad. And kind of similar to like, you know, he inserts these like his own personal fetishes into these movies. Like, you know, you're a bad actor. You know what good acting looks like because you cast good actors.
Oh yeah, you direct amazing movies.
Yeah.
So you know how to get the best performances out of your actors, but you can't deliver it yourself.
Yeah. And then as far as some of the particular dialogue, you know, the racist, homophobic, ableist language, come on. Like, again, you don't have to do that. You can make characters despicable without having to use that language and without them having to be homophobic or racist or misogynistic or ableist. Like,
agreed.
My other bad is Juliette Lewis and Ernest Liu. I almost put Juliette Lewis down. Yeah, their acting didn't do it for me. Juliette Lewis is I don't know.
I think we're on the same page there. There is not much that I've been impressed with Juliette Lewis.
Yeah. And Ernest Liu, I think he got in like introducing Ernest Liu credit in this movie, and
so he gets a little bit of a pass just because, again, might be his first big time role. But like the only role that I would say Juliette Lewis impressed me with that I come into memory is it The Other Sister? Is that the one where she's mentally challenged and Giovanni Ribisi's mentally challenged and they're together?
I've never seen it. I think that's the movie. Yeah.
That she did a good job there. I'll give it. Yeah, that's the one. Diane Keaton, Tom Skerritt.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a solid movie. That was a solid performance from her. I'll give her that. But let's see, she was even though she was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress. But that one, at least, like, she wasn't just being Juliette Lewis. Like, you could tell she was trying to act. But this is one where you feel like, yeah, this is your dad was in the industry for a long time, so we're gonna throw you a bone.
Yeah, not impressed by the acting of those two in this movie. All right, Oz, what's your
Do the vampires at the Twister, like, do they do this every night? Do they vamp out every night? And if so, what kind of economical impact is that having on the shipping industry?
Yeah, you'd think there'd be a wider economic hit. That kind of relates. One of my possibilities was there's no one noticed the missing bikers and truck drivers over the years.
Right. Like, I get why they're going with bikers and truck drivers because But that's I'm like, is this an every night thing? Like, and this is the first night anyone's ever fought back. Like, so that was my like, what's the? I won't say global because it's not that many trucks. But over time, this adds up.
The distribution and logistics industry really takes a beating from this particular place.
Like, if I were a dispatch statistician, I would start paying attention to where are our trucks, when are we losing them, and we need to start rerouting around that route. It's like this has become the Bermuda Triangle of long over the road truckers.
Maybe this is what Amazon uses to keep their drivers from unionizing.
I guess.
Don't make us send you to the Twister.
Right. Have you seen From Dusk Till Dawn? You can rent it on Amazon Prime.
No unions, otherwise you go to the Twister.
We're sending you to the Twister.
Okay, no union.
So how about you? What's your
My is, how did Seth kill so many vampires with that pneumatic like spike gun that he made? It was a cool thing, but like it takes like 10 seconds for each of them, and then like the moment Scott lets his guard down, like he's devoured by 6 vampires at once. but yet Seth is like, just stand still, and all of you just watch the carnage that's ensuing while I spike one of you, turn the thing on, let it go for a little bit, remove it. And then turn to the next one of you. Like, take a ticket and get in line. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this scene with Seth and the vampires is what really inspired Tarantino to write The Bride and the 88 Keys.
Yeah.
The crazy 88s.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, I'm going to fight all of you, but just one at a time. Like,
yeah.
I'll get to you. Just take a number and be patient. But I agree. Like it did, and it's like that. It's not like it was a light device. Like it took a lot of effort to whip it around.
Yeah.
And but he did her.
I get movie magic, suspend your disbelief, but it's like, okay, all of you just stand around while I take you out one at a time.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a bank robber, because that's what he is.
Yeah, also an engineer.
Yeah, right. I cut out the blueprint scene where he's putting the schematics together for his. He's got R&D department back in that room.
He's got his master's in mechanical engineering from MIT.
He got that while he got his tribal sleeve tattoo.
There you go. Well, Oz, that's From Dusk Till Dawn. That kicks off Bat Month.
Yes, it does.
What do we got?
We'll be back.
Yeah. So what do we got next week? Go.
We are going to go back to 1985. We're going to rewind it 11 years. And we're going to watch the original. Is it Tom Holland directed? I believe.
Yes, Tom Holland, not that Tom Holland.
No, or that Tom Holland. There's a there's a guy that works for he's like a ultra marathoner, but he also does like I won't say motivational, but instructional workout videos for daily burn and stuff like that. His name is also Tom Holland. But yeah, we're going back to 1985 to Tom Holland's Fright Night, the original Fright Night, not the very actually. Really
I like the remake. Yeah, I like it.
I like the remake as well. It's for a remake, it did a good job of kind of making it its own. But we're gonna go to 1985's. Fright Night, starring Chris Sarandon and William Ragsdale and Marcy Darcy.
You beat me to it. Marcy Darcy's in it.
Can't leave out Marcy Darcy.
Marcy Darcy. I wonder if Jefferson will make an appearance.
Sure, why not? We're going to tackle 1985's Fright Night. Again, second week of Man-Bat Month, where we are covering vampire movies, but they have to have a bat in there.
Yes.
Typically a bat transformation. While we didn't see a full-on bat to vampire transformation, the bats flew into the bar and became vampires, so we knew what happened. And so we have another one next week in Fright Night. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Also, if you are in the mood for another horror podcast with another kind of educational bent, we'll be kicking off. We're recording our first episode this week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so we're going to record this week. We are going to cover... in our debut episode of Deducation, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where we watch a horror film and then talk about what it would be like to be a teacher in that environment, or teachers of those kids, or having parents of kids like that, or whatever. But we're gonna kick it off with 1983, I believe it is. We're gonna cover Sleepaway Camp.
Nice, classic.
To which my co-host, kind of a fun scenario, my co-host is 16 years younger than I am. She was a former student of mine. And so it's fun because not only are we both educators talking about the education process in horror films, but we're also a situation where I was once her teacher, and she's like, we didn't have internet growing up. So I love horror films, but I really haven't seen very many of them. So I'm very excited at what I get to introduce her to in that regard. So I'll be teaching her
and read her reactions and
it's gonna be fun. She's very nervous and a little worried, and I'm like, I go, you'll be fine. I go, we've been doing this nearly a year now.
Yeah, so it's like these two idiots can pull it off.
Yeah, right. So we'll be kicking off the debut episode of Deducation with Sleepaway Camp. So if you like your horror content, or you like hearing me talk, tune on in. So, but next week on this podcast, though, we'll be covering Fright Night, which I'm excited for.
Oz, what episode number will we have next week?
Next week will be episode 50.
50 episodes! On the road to 50,000.
It's been a while since you've dropped one. We will be hitting episode 50, half a century in terms of episodes, not in terms of years. We've been doing this podcast for 50 years.
Yeah, good moisturizing regimens that we have here.
Yeah, we started when we were -8. So, but yeah, 50 episodes. So, and that I think qualifies us for full-time status in the CIC.
It does. Ooh, we're
We're
coming
no
for
longer. Yeah, that's right. We're climbing that ladder. We're running up that hill.
We're now nice. We're now someone's.
That's right. You can find us in the same place you found us every time. We just now have to pay a little bit more in dues.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second.
So, yeah, all this hard work costs us. That's great. But anyway, for Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
Find us on all your favorite social media channels and anywhere you stream your podcasts, as well as YouTube if you'd like to see us look at you. Not really, but you know what I mean.
Look into your soul.
Like to say, right? We're on to you. Soul taker. But we'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for stopping by.